All right. So exactly how does a mortgage process work? And I swear there's so much conflicting information. So I am here to tell you kind of the quick version of exactly how the mortgage process works, right? So we got peanut butter and jelly. You'll kind of see them here in my lap, and they're going to help us tell you exactly what the mortgage process looks like. So first of all, what the heck is a mortgage, right? So mortgage is that big financial amount of money that you're going to borrow to buy a house. So if you don't have the cash to buy a house, don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and help you get that money, and that money is going to be called a mortgage, right? So what does the process actually look like? So the process looks something like this. Step one, you're going to pick a lender, right? And I can go in a further video to kind of explain maybe how you choose a lender, what makes the most sense and things like that. But for purposes of this, let's just say that you pick that person, and then you're going to do an application with them, right? So application, basically you can do it on the phone, you can do it in person, pretty rare these days, but you can do it in person, or another choice is you'll go right to the website and you actually just go and fill it out yourself, right? So you fill out that application, then usually that lender is going to ask you to submit some documentation, right? Documentation like pay stubs and W-2s, tax returns, things like this, okay? We have a saying in mortgage, it's called 222, 2 pay stubs, 2 years tax returns, 2 years W-2s, 2 bank statements. So that's kind of the general rule of thumb of more or less what the mortgage company is going to ask you for. Why do they ask you for that? Well, that's a really easy and good question. So basically they want to validate that what you actually put into the application is what is actually right? So is it actually correct? Is the information that you're providing, like, is it actually what is on the application? So that's what they're kind of looking for. Once that happens, they're going to review that, and they're going to issue you something called a pre-qualification or pre-approval, depending on which process they take. So pre-qualification is going to be that they're going to review it. Pre-approval is going to be they actually ran it through underwriting, okay? Either underwriting system or submitting it to a physical underwriter. So they're going to do something like that, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to issue you that letter. Okay, so that letter goes ahead and says, hey, here, Mr. Customer, this is what you can do to buy a house. Here's how much that is. So now you go out and you found the perfect home. You made the offer. Great news. The offer was accepted. Awesome. All right, so what happens next? So at this point in time, you're going to go under contract and you're going to go into processing, right? So mortgage processing. So they're going to go ahead, they're going to collect any other documentation maybe that you haven't already provided, or something that's expired, maybe some time has gone by, now you need a new pay stub or something like that. They're going to submit your file in to an underwriter. Underwriter's going to look at it, say, hey, everything looks good, but I got a few questions here. Here's my questions. And they're going to submit that back out. Okay, those questions could be things like, hey, I want to verify that the person actually works at this job. So that's something they could do, right? It could be something like, hey, there's a question here, like there's a job gap, like what was happening here? Hey, we looked at the credit report, because that's actually something, and I apologize, that happens back in that pre-qualification, pre-approval status. They pull the credit report. Hey, we see this thing on the credit. What happened here, right? There was a late or something like that. So they may ask for a few extra questions. Most of the items are going to be things that are internal. If different kinds of reports, they're going to usually say that they need an appraisal. What the heck is an appraisal? An appraisal is basically that report that they do that tells them how much the house is actually worth, right? So how much is the house worth? They need to know, because they're loaning you a lot of money and they want to make sure that the house is actually worth what the heck you're buying it for. So there's things like that. Once we've collected all of those things from you, things from the appraisal, the title company, all these people, we're then going to submit it back into underwriting, and the underwriter is going to issue something called a clear to close. That means, hey, all the things that they had concerns about, all the questions they had, we cleared them all up. Everything looks good, and we've cleared you to close. So now we're willing to loan you that money. Amazing. What happens next? Now you actually go to the closing table. So you go to that closing table, you go ahead and you sign a bunch of paperwork, you feel like you're signing your entire life away, and then you go ahead and the loan does something called fund. Fund means that, hey, we looked at everything, you signed everything looks great, and now we're going to actually issue the money and hand it out, right? So we send that money to the title company, and they go ahead and they disperse to all the different parties, to the seller, to all the things, and you actually get your keys in hand. It's a little different for each state on whether it is immediate that you get your keys or you have to wait a day or so. Just depends on the state. but that's basically the mortgage process kind of in a nutshell. Obviously, it gets a lot more complicated if you go specifically to each piece. I am going to be doing a whole series on it bit by bit, but that is the big overview, right? So we start off with an application, we move down the path into you getting actually qualified, we then move down into you've gotten under contract, and you actually go into processing and underwriting and make sure that everything is good. We get all the reports back, all the information back, we send you back into that underwriting process, and everything gets checked off, and then finally you sign all that paperwork, and you're good to go. You loan funds, and you're the brand new owner of a home. So that's more or less what the mortgage process from a purchase perspective looks like in a nutshell, right? So go ahead and you can watch some additional videos to learn more about specifics, about more in depth on the application. What does that look like? Pre-qualification and pre-approval. Are they any different? And things like that, right? So this just kind of gave you a brief understanding of the mortgage process in a nutshell. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.